BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello, it's Anna Hill with the Farming Today podcast. People who live around Lough Neagh in Northern Ireland say the pollution there is the worst they've seen, and they're urging the government to take swift action. We'll have more on that a little later. But first today, the Shetland island Unst is the most northerly inhabited island in Britain. It's also considered to be the true home of the Shetland pony, and it's the venue of the most northerly agricultural show in the UK. The Unst Show has been going for more than 150 years and draws crowds from across Shetland and beyond to see cows, sheep, poultry and, of course, ponies being exhibited. BBC Radio Shetland's John Johnston braved the rain to go along, where he met show president and Unst crofter Richard Spence.
I came for myself and the crafting pockets in the main days of the year. You meet in we are there, the visiting crafters and the people that comes up every year to come to Unst. I'm amazed at the effort they make, especially with ferry service at the moment.
Well, I've moved up to the Shetland pony section and with Sheen Anderson, and you've just picked up 2 prizes.
Yeah, my 2-year-old filly Filska Tweetishy got junior champion, and my colt foal Filska Magique was reserve junior champion. But there's a good quality of ponies up in Unst, so it's really very special to win.
It is really the home of the Shetland pony.
It is indeed.
No, the weather hasn't been great, and especially in the morning time, the rain, some of the foals were fairly drooked.
Yeah, the forecast yesterday said it was going to be dry all day, so we're here with no oilskins.
But you're going home with a few rosettes.
We're going home with a lot of rosettes, we're very pleased.
Well, I've dropped over to the poultry section and bumped into Lee Jameson and his son Bobby. Some good news here, we've got a winner.
Yeah.
And Bobby, your hen has won. So tell me a little bit about the hen.
Well, it's a black star and it lives with me, yeah.
And let's speak to your dad. My goodness, Lee, there's a couple of prizes here.
Yeah, he's picked up first, second and third in the hens. It's the first year he's entered hens, so it's a pretty project he's got, selling eggs. Something I used to do a long time ago, so he's doing it himself, so.
Well, I've just stepped into the hall now to look at the produce and the knitwear, and I'm joined by Louise.
Yeah.
What do you think of the quality of the entries this year?
The entries is outstanding. The quality is amazing. The judges have all had a very hard morning trying to make up their minds about who's getting the trophy, so it's been tough, but there's also an amazing quantity of entries this year. I think we're up more than 30% on last year, so a brilliant amount of entries this year.
You're speaking to Jimmy Young
and Colin Slesser.
So you're the judges, one for the cattle and one for the sheep.
That's correct.
And I'm judging overall sheep.
So what do you think of the quality of the livestock you've seen here today?
The quality of the cattle I saw was very, very impressive. There were some of the cows, I said to them when I was judging, that's the cows I would take home. There's 3 or 4 cows with calves, plus 2 calves, the champion of reserve. I could take them home.
Sheep was the same. All the breeders should be credited for turning out so many sheep. I think there's about 300 sheep here today. A lot of native Shetland sheep, but an excellent show of purebred sheep and crossbred sheep, and the standard is first class. It would match up with any show down in Aberdeenshire or any show across Scotland. It's great to be up here, and we're enjoying it, aren't we, Jimmy?
Yep. We're having a good time.
That report from John Johnston at the Unst Show. Now, all this week we've been hearing about animal feed. Sourcing animal feed can be contentious. At the moment, the UK government is bringing forward a forest risk commodity regulation that attempts to reduce deforestation around the world linked with animal feed products like soya. The EU has already introduced their own regulations. So UK farmers are trying to source and grow more animal feed here at home. Henry Cole & Co have been in business for over 100 years, making a farm feed mix using a wide range of crops, including wheat, oats, peas and beans, all grown locally. Feed processors like Coles have to prepare the crops so their nutrients are easily accessible for livestock. Marie Lennon met Alan Christie at their Gloucestershire base to see how it's done.
So we're in a typical warehouse. It's originally designed for livestock, but we've changed it into an area that can be used to store the raw ingredients that goes into the Henry's feed. So you'll see here there's various bunkers, which is just a holding bay.
And there are these small, dusty mountains of grain, all a slightly different shade. And there's that warm, kind of toasty smell in the air.
These are all, whole peas, whole beans. What we have to do before we make the feed is process them through these two machines here. One is called a roller mill, which rolls the cereals flat so the animal can digest them. The other would be a hammer mill that we would put things like peas and beans through it, again to open up the bean so the animal can digest it. So these, you probably would recognise this.
Oh, beautiful. Look at that colour.
These are field beans. They're high protein, so it's good for the animal. The plant that you've put in the following year, like wheat, will benefit from the nitrogen that's fixed in the soil by the beans. It's a win-win. These are grown on the farm here. So people these days talk about air miles. Well, the air miles would be about half a mile here.
Which is how it would have been traditionally. You would have had this whole very locally based ecosystem of field, animals and the feed all within a few miles of each other.
Absolutely. And it's very much what the farmers would have been doing 60, 70, 80 years ago. These are peas. You can see the nice green colour. That's oats. Again, oats grown on the farm, but we roll them. What he's doing now, this is wheat coming down, and it's going up elevator into the bagging plant. The mixed feed is now coming into a hopper where it will be bagged off in 20-kilo paper bags.
The business itself has got a really long heritage in this area, way back to the mid-19th century.
Yeah. So Henry Cole started off as a flour miller in Cirencester, and obviously the byproduct of flour is wheat feed, which is a good animal feed, so they started making their own animal feed. The system you see here, it's just a very simple mixing good old-fashioned raw ingredients together.
And how is business?
So business is good at the minute. This last summer has not been good for farmers. The lack of rain has meant that lots of farmers have got very low forage stocks, which is a real worrying concern for the winter. And as an animal feed supplier, you might think, we are pleased with that. We're not, because farmers have to have a reliable source of forage to feed their animals, because if they're just going to be buying in all the feed, they're sooner or later going to run out of money, and nobody wants that.
And what's the future of this business?
I think there'll always be a demand for the type of feeds we produce here. Probably 85% of our customers are the pedigree farmer customers who are looking to buy quality feeds. Will cost them slightly more because they know that the proof is in the pudding. The animal's performance is usually much better. More and more customers are demanding, when they go into certainly farm shops, where does this animal come from? Do you know where it was reared? Do you know what it was fed?
Alan Christie there at Henry Cole & Co with Marie Lennon. People living and working around Lough Neagh in Northern Ireland say pollution in the loch has become worse over the hot summer this year. The loch supplies about 40% of Northern Ireland's drinking water, and for the past couple of years it's been covered with a toxic blue-green algae, which has grown due to pollution from agriculture, broken water treatment facilities and industrial waste. Louise Cullen is BBC Northern Ireland's environment correspondent. I asked her, as we move into autumn, how Lough Neagh is looking now.
Well, we've just come through a spell of very stormy weather, and that's good news when it comes to algal mats, because it breaks them up and it moves them around, and the chillier weather, the chillier air causes the algae to sink in the water. But it's fair to say we've had some incredible sights over the course of the summer. The loch, once again, bright green, clumps of the algae travelling along the lower ban up to the north coast and leading to a bathing ban on one of our beautiful beaches. It's not just how the loch looks, of course, it's how it smells. It's a really foul, horrible scent. And it's the effect on everybody living around the loch, people who are working on the loch. Sarah McDowell runs the Loch Keepers Cafe at Tuam.
We would have like bus tours that come and everything. They've cancelled. We've had people from America. They've cancelled. I do think it can be restored. I do think it can get back to how it used to be. But will it be done? I don't think that the people with the money will put the money where it needs to be.
Well, that was Sarah McDowell there. What about the fishermen who rely on the loch for their livelihoods?
Well, as we heard earlier in the summer, the brown eel fishing season has been cancelled this year because of issues with the quality of the catch. Around 80% of the catch from Lough Neagh of brown eel gets exported to the Netherlands for smoking. That requires a very high fat content. The fat content simply wasn't there, so the season was simply cancelled. Now, eel fishing is a big part of commercial fishermen's income on the loch. They are still fishing scale fish, and the silver eel fishing season is getting underway. But because of the impact of the eel fishing, they're saying that they're seeing their income drop by sometimes in some cases as much as 60%, because this brown eel, this is the only commercial eel fishery in the UK. Dr. Derek Evans is a senior fisheries scientist from the Agri-Food and Biosciences Institute.
We found that fat content will be similar to what we would have found previously, stomach contents similar as well, and nothing else was unusual taken into consideration. We had only seen 20 eels as opposed to 400.
Dr. Derek Evans there. Well, there have been reports that rescue plans to deal with this environmental crisis have stalled. What are the government and Northern Ireland's farmers doing about that?
The government would say, the Department of Agriculture, Environment and Rural Affairs, they point to the Lough Neagh Action Plan. 37 actions in that plan. They say 14 of them have been completed, 22 of them are in progress. That 37th action requires executive consent, and that's a big issue around changing the fining structure, because Northern Ireland Water has an exemption in terms of sewage pollution into the loch. The Minister, Andrew Muir, he says that he is going to be asking for all of those parties around the executive table and his Assembly colleagues as well to agree to things that are going to be big asks.
Some parties, they could spare me the crocodile tears around this. When it comes to the bit, they need to support me on the difficult decisions needed to turn the situation around in Lough Neagh.
So as ministers return to Stormont after the summer holidays, Louise, what happens now?
Well, they're all coming back next week, and the Minister has appealed to his executive colleagues, but he's going to be asking them to agree to large-scale issues around strengthening environmental governance. The Minister is very keen to push the idea of an independent environmental regulation authority here for Northern Ireland. He's going to be looking to strengthen the regulation and enforcement regime around sewage pollution. That's changing how Northern Ireland's structure really works. They're also going to be asked to consent to better slurry management arrangements and use of synthetic fertilisers on farms through the Nutrients Action Programme. But there's also an argument there around the amount of financial support that farmers are going to need to make these transitions, improve how things are done on farm. And then, of course, there's the Climate Action Plan for Northern Ireland, the consultations ongoing around that for the minute. And the Minister is going to be looking for support for the proposals that are in that plan.
That was BBC Northern Ireland's environment correspondent Louise Cullen. That's all from us today. I'm Anna Hill. The producer was Rebecca Rooney. Farming Today is a BBC Audio Bristol production.